Vocabio. Master English your way.
Humiliation. It can be Palestinians at an Israeli checkpoint. It can be Sephardic Jews versus Ashkenazi Jews. It can be Muslim youth.
First time I ever saw this graph by the Israeli startup Neurosteer, I was...
Our support, our unquestioning support for the Israeli occupation of the Palestinians. We can talk about...
And I think we have similar ideas about Israeli food. Israeli food is full of sun and spice and...
Like Israeli cuisine, and it's so good, so helpful. Pomegranates are everything.
A whistle guy, like a clipboard guy, demanded a lot from the girls and from us parents.
The crew chief runs over, he's got his clipboard there. The data guy comes over with his laptop, they're downloading.
Ooh, how do I say? Like, we call him a clipboard chef. Like, I never wanted to be a clipboard chef.
No clipboard today. I was also...
Clipboard. Okay, great.
Strips, decoration, illustration of what is going on in the Psalms.
Self-help with illustrations of character and conduct. So, how did it do?
Is that it's a good illustration that some of the firms that probably have tried to position them.
She also offered some beautiful illustrations throughout the book. Plan to Sapiens is a book with a
hoping to do in the world. An illustration of this that we have in the book is the story of
the fact that we're able to return our profits to our members just this year launched back.
1% could profit from the commodification of nature, from the exploitation of those communities.
Slowdown was damaging their sales and damaging their profits. A Chinese ambassador. A
crime act, right? If you profit from a crime, if my dad profits from a crime, I guarantee you go and...
the profits of these big businesses. And then they co-opted the
meditation work in there, journal work, conversation starters, and then there's some amazing women that I interviewed.
What is it called? A low budget or starter diamond with mass market appeal, light box.
5 of the 10 starters on the 2 teams were ABA guys, and 10 of the 20. And 2 endless wars for starters. That's the most obvious example. So all of this meant...
He still finds the BMI useful, sort of as a starter test to see whether more measures of a person...
Yep, there's a, right on our homepage is if you're an adventurer, begin here. If you're a scientist...
Spotify's homepage changed over the years. And I noticed that there was this one really particular...
account is this homepage where it says Learn ArcGIS. For myself, in
the chat, you can find it on the CMC homepage under research, and there is a really cool...
Too intuitive. If you just opened up your homepage, you'd be like, what are you talking about? There's a traditional post.
When you say that, you're not looking forward to blisters. You're not looking forward to muscle aches and disappointment.
People running around the streets of Calcutta, they have blisters on their feet, wearing tattered clothes, blood.
Moaning and groaning in there, there's blisters, and it doesn't smell very good. So I thought...
Fakes, you'll be able to, quote, see the blisters in the body of the fictitious stones. These are filaments, and they are...
So, maybe the second one will be the magic.
Then very difficult to treat, and then it becomes like a chronic therapy which you're just trying to get the patient to live. Then very difficult to treat, and then it becomes like a chronic therapy which you're just trying to get the patient to live.
Floor of the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkup Building at Kennedy. And actually, NASA has...
Younger age. That means checkups of blood pressure, body weight, and blood sugar.
I had to have an annual checkup. And a few years ago, we discovered it had gone.
Look at cover of Vogue and be like, well, she's got a massive thigh gap. Why do I have to put on weight and she doesn't?
Thighs, releasing any areas that can be soft.
It was like, find out how to get a thigh gap and like stuff like that. Do you have any songs or...
この太ももの骨の丸っこいとこですね、骨頭部って言うんですけど。
Chicken thigh, boneless pork shoulder, or a steak.
Your team and strengths, and you're not going to bring in just basically the most talented, the most experienced.
but you're going to bring in people who have...
And then on top of it's a little bit of another MESA preparation that I brought with some black sesame seeds from Taki.
Step inside this college counseling office at MESA Charter High School in Brooklyn, and you'll find tenacious...
Are a type of spider called mesophiles. They belong to, there are three...
Have Pomona College be situated in Piedmont Mesa, which is in northern Claremont. That
event where we would use this as a lifeboat. If something, say a conjunction or something was about to...
The Crew 8 vehicle will serve as the lifeboat for Butch and Sunny. We have a configuration on the cargo.
Would the Crew 8 Dragon be used as a lifeboat for Butch and Sunny? Like, do they have any special equipment?
That the spacecraft can act as a lifeboat, just in case anything bad goes on the International Space Station.
And that's also the primary lifeboat, the only lifeboat that we have for the ISS.
Headscarf. There are scriptural encouragements for Muslims, and I would argue Jewish women, to cover.
Most of them were driven by words of encouragement from religious and political leaders. Most.
If you guys, there's another encouragement to the API community as you guys.
Adulthoods could give way under conditions of encouragement and support to adulthoods bearing not.
Of immense support and encouragement from the minute I started playing from.
Is of politics as a form of religion with all the attendant things, but I want to go back because Frank, you have not
just pilot, not just flight attendant. We have air traffic controllers. We have engineers. We have ambulance attendants. Did that? I would be really unhappy, right?
A formulation of its dynamism. Attendant to life and movement, Eisenstein presents the study of power.
Son of Indian immigrants is an attendant in a hospital, and his colleagues and
There's something about elephants being paid more than other keepers at the zoo.
Oh yes, that's right. I used to work at the San Francisco.
Anyway, it was a total keeper, and it's just you can't do anything sort of without being noticed.
The Miami Waterkeeper won were 234 hectares.
From teachers as keepers of knowledge to teachers as creators of conditions.
Western Front, often providing fascinating details at multiple levels of analysis, including
to prevent huge numbers of deaths. And without going into huge details about the article, amongst the things I looked at were...
And what the court did, and again, more detail than most people want, but what the court did, which Josh alludes to...
Actually is sitting in the room, so there's some amazing detail there, but very little about my grandmother, very little about...
Didn't have to drill into this level of detail, and people like you are now, fully expert.
Within the General Assembly who voted in favour of the Ukraine resolutions, but haven't.
Right. Massive majority in favour of reforming the House of Lords, total inability to get any kind of majority.
Specialises in each. I'm really in favour of an effective autism community.
Her judicial capacity and expect her to return favours. What would you say to
the pandemic, in that sense, did us a favour? This was a trend that was already coming on because
get through and I'm like, wait, have I shampooed my hair? I'm on the conditioner. So it's also a great way just to, keep yourself grounded in your shower.
Is being kept open and the air conditioner blasting at 60 degrees. So that will probably stay.
Public spaces and landscape as a conditioner. The public spaces of the city
is closed quite directly by the intrusion of air conditioners, by the insertion of air conditioners into these systems, and that sort of
doing calling campaigns or handing out air conditioners in a heat event. And so we looked at the different
act as the ocean's nurseries, providing juvenile sea creatures refuge from larger predators.
HMV, which is now Saregama. Yeah. It was a Bengali nursery rhyme album, and it was a
adults turned to me and said, do not repeat this at the nursery tomorrow. So it was just, when you grow up with...
I try to map that to nursery information. Like when I walk through nursery, I get a lot of inspiration.
A rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief. I was thinking about that nursery rhyme today as I tried to...
Digital media help or harm the strongmen is...
And too culturally explosive not to take the risk of harming my company in the process if I were really going to speak openly about it.
The only person who can cause you more harm than a thief with a dagger is a journalist with a pen.
to cause any of us any harm, but they're basically
cause a lot more, could potentially cause more harm than good, even with some disposable.
Joining us today are two distinguished guests, Dr. Rosemary Wesson, Associate Vice Chancellor.
Food Illustrated, with a little rosemary and garlic.
And of course, herbs, cilantro, chives, mint, rosemary, sage, and thyme are great right now.
Quickly, I think all the medics have, everyone I know in the infectious disease
and carrying out an experiment. All medical progress is based.
SARS, he opened the door and he yelled medic, and the medic came in, and I saw.
We are the medics who swapped stethoscopes for lube.
That's why, and what is essentially meditation? It's about paying attention, right? Deep. And cancers can benefit hugely from mRNA technologies.
Are you talking about my little M&M skits?
Yeah, they're brilliant. And
Are you talking about my little M&M skits?
Yeah, they're brilliant. And
pieces. I mean, poems can be long. Some skits can be a little long or be a lot more narrative. And
culture and memory wars were played out sometimes in skits where different teams.
Financial content, and is the founding editor of The Evidence-Based Investor, a blog that works to
from Calais in France. And my editor and me had a conversation and basically went, what does that mean?
I'm journalist and editor Hugo Lindgren. I'm here at the Intelligence Squared podcast with Scott Anderson, who's the author of a new book.
I was formerly the economics editor of BBC, and one thing there was behavioural.
Now, Jake Wallace-Simons is the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, which in many ways,
out of its normal context of like a dumpling wrapper where you would boil. Instead, you would bake it so it's crispy like a.
And I serve it over like really easy to make ricotta dumplings. So it's all about like having a basic thing and knowing how to.
Accutech R&D dumplings. Accutech, if you know your Marvel lore, is a company that's actually
meatballs, or even sometimes we put frozen dumplings in our soup, which is really good. So.
Braised oxtail and collard green dumplings. I did this crudo of like
midnight Eastern on Saturday.
NASA astronauts.
They worked in the afternoon shift at the factories, got off about midnight, 1 a.m. As a result, they want to go relax with their friends.
I want to stay out till midnight tonight. Will you guys let me do that? And to get that privilege,
我都是午夜出去，一般是夜里1点到早晨。
It said, you go to your studio at like midnight to stay away from like fans or photographers or the media.
The Convention of the Future Armenian, which is a highly complex poetry.
Also, they were also there. He made some Armenian plot or something. Yeah. They were all afraid of him.
Right. It means for us humans. Paolo Pirjonian is Armenian, but he was born in Iran and started his
dish. I think of it as like the Armenian answer to refried beans. And then we are going to talk just.
Or came from Marseille. And her people were Armenian immigrants through the port of Marseille.
It's a very simple thing, right? So taste buds have a very specific configuration, and a molecule needs to fit in.
Taste bud stimulation. The only thing that's left of animals once we.
I have to bring some people, young buds through.
Yeah. Well, I like to do this thing where I kind of.
This is nice, aromatic and therapeutic, making taste buds tingle with only a sprinkle and not just in
gels to your earbuds, caulks, paints, sealants, made with carbon silicon bonds.
Might think, especially like there are so many blogs, so everybody's writing recipes, but there are a lot of very poorly
by the Modi government, and they are resorting to writing blogs and tweeting about what's happening on the ground. So it is
my love of cooking. So back when blogs kind of weren't all the rage, I started.
Name a wine the most, it's the blue blogs. Like, why? It's like, well, there's a blue wall right there. Or
Cory Doctorow, wears red cape and goggles when he blogs, and a week or so later, he was given an award. And
I asked him, basically why. I said, do you like the guy? I said, I don't like the guy. I don't.
Simu, welcome to Talks at Google. How are you doing?
What's going on, Yul? It's so good to see you.
Yeah, man.
BS about
these people's neighborhoods, I was like, hey, dudes, the kids in my neighborhood are just as smart.
And at chess.com going, why is it like that? Dude, if I can't understand it, nobody can understand it. Like, I can barely see that.
Started that whole thing.
Oh, man, yeah.
This guy's wicked, dude. He's been to jail. Let's give you the judge.
Inciting and carrying out hate-fueled violent attacks on women, and how we could
a Voting Rights Act that would protect the franchise from Republican attacks, then ensure everybody has the right to vote, then they should eliminate the film.
It's by totalitarianism, attack democratic countries by sharp and soft power. And
understand this because you have an NHS, even though there are attacks on it, we in America are, kind of medieval.
In the past, people have attacked her, in my view, to get indirectly at her dad.
It reminds me very much of the logic of the ducking stool. You've got the, if the witch sinks, she wasn't a witch. And
could be used also for a stool or a bank or, well, a bank, you can also sit alone.
Stools. Or the kind of...
Think of is a three-legged stool. It contains elements of
my mom. But when she went in the store, she set me on the back of the wagon, indicating that she was babysitting.
Daycare centers. And those spaces...
All of the jobs that were available during daycare hours were kind of professional jobs.
I can't tell you how many parents of daycare-age kids have told me stories about how much more adventurous they're...
Woke up at 6:30 and then dropped my kid off at daycare, and then I came home and slept for 1 more hour before coming here. So,
Short supply. Good daycare, even if available, unaffordable.
So, this is not about a council of despair. It's too easy to go that route. And yes, you can
have access to the best possible counsel. And yet increasingly what you notice.
So we went to the European Parliament, we went to the Council of Europe and brought, their pressure to bear down.
A veto on the United Nations Security Council. So, but I think to the extent that's true,
you can, you certainly should adjust council tax so that people living around here don't pay absurdly small.
Any damage, any delay, any payment snafus. But when it comes to
nuclear weapons, that they were delaying the weapons that should...
The biggest regrets I've got are about things I delayed doing rather than things that I did too fast.
Still see legal cases and delays in the implementation.
It's often that things get watered down, they get delayed, kicked into the long grass.
On the continent as far as xenophobic attitudes are. Nigerians, Ugandans, Sierra Leoneans, Nigerians.
Just so I can sit with the Nigerians because they're singing through the whole thing. It's black.
Houston probably knows there's lots of Nigerians there. So our founder was actually based...
Being Jews or Nigerians or Torontonians or whatever.
Religion has become the #1 problem for Nigerians. Hope is all right.
Because I sometimes worry that the goalpost moves. You might halve migration levels or get it down, but then...
The President's request to Congress helped set the goalposts for what we in Congress could work towards.
More, that idea of happiness, the goalpost keeps moving. Mm-hmm. So tap into things
without constantly shifting goalposts.
Can we take 2 more questions? Yeah, great. Let's take...
like that, it feels like the goalpost is constantly being moved. And so I think what's really...
We enable rendering of search queries to have results available at your fingertips, or enable...
In the database with many attributes, and then you have a query screen and you keep calling it, whichever you want.
Visual data and natural language to digest complex queries in real time, while remembering your...
By Laurie. A query about writing by a designer. Laurie will...
Would love to invite your questions or queries and potentially just have a conversation of what's possible. Thank you very much, guys.
20 years, we've had a problem with West Nile virus because there have been more mosquitoes. Now there's a public...
Including Young Lawrence, A Winter on the Nile, The Pharaoh's Shadow, The Gates of Africa, and Lift.
It also provides the headwaters to the White Nile, meaning it's one of the main feeders of the River Nile.
There's 1 billion people in Africa. You got the Nile River in the north. You've got Nigeria has some lights.
Holocaust studies, which is Holocaust denial, especially
around Himmler, there's a lot of kind of...
I get this. And I remember seeing Jupiter around that time through a really nice telescope. It was about the size of...
Turns out that there's what are called Jupiter main belt comets. These are comets that were in the Kuiper belt.
Or Jupiter, so it's all very fuzzy. And I think one answer is to say...
Python programmers, they also use Jupyter Notebook, or can be used with the Jupyter.
It has already flown by Jupiter's Saturn. In fact, it entered interstellar space.
For the coalition intervention in Mesopotamia, I think it can be granted by any fair-minded person.
And also on ancient board games and Mesopotamian magic, medicine, literature.
Studying all the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley and so forth. And they are...
For the coalition intervention in Mesopotamia, I think it can be granted by any fair-minded person.
People now call the six cradles of civilization Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, China, Andes, and Mesoamerica.
And so something like to Cologne in Napa Valley, or
all in Cologne, Germany. Other versions of the story.
I have a student now from the ESA in Cologne working with me for the next months, trying to think of different ways.
Lincoln Center, the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, the Holiday Bowl.
Sunny Cologne, he's my favorite to listen to. Victoria Monet, Lucky Day.
CEO, I delivered 75 quarters of earnings release. 75 quarters.
Generates these coupons or these earnings or cash flow, every year. The difference with
and to supplement my earnings every night when everybody else had left.
By definition, maximize their own earnings. But that is not what happens in the prisoner's dilemma.
To learn that their shift has been canceled along with their earnings for that day. The New York Times, I might add, has done so.
Well, those are almost dress rehearsals where your body realizes, oh, like this is what this is.
Have the moving floor in our first rehearsals in London, which is quite a luxury.
All got to go to Tulsa before we started our rehearsal process and meet Susie Hinton and
situation. Yeah, because I think in our rehearsal, he mentioned a very interesting point. He said the fear is
where you go from practice to rehearsal in your own mind can generate more stress.
To fill in their reports, we built in a graduation structure. When a recruit completed 3 reports in a row, they received...
Looking forward to the birthdays and graduations, but what will I treasure in my final day?
I'm running my first marathon on Sunday. And
congratulations.
Thank you. We'll see how it goes.
But move 6 to 9 times before graduation, carrying the constant weight of change and the
same preparation for success after graduation. This idea mirrors much of what
where we are, because we're on rural farmland, and that's why the cheetah is taken on into this area.
The farmland beyond, but also very low density.
To be able to, through the American Farmland Trust, so in our 16 activated markets,
to control the rich farmlands and the water of Ukraine. Others may think that the real
horrific fires. It's a place of forests, lakes, farmlands, and 11 inhabited islands.
Those challenges, we're still sort of nibbling around the edges, and I'm not sure,
So I think he might nibble at it at the edges and proclaim radical.
You take that piece and you gently nibble the edge, and it slowly just...
A goat herd named Caldi observed that after nibbling on some berries, his goats started... A young person in your life, like a niece, nephew, nibbling, you can say, hey, is there...
Like you said, I've been kind of lulling my parents into this false sense of security. And when the whole time...
of Joe Biden, which normally is a kind of lull period in American politics, wherever.
I was trying to pierce when I wrote the book is that, it does lull one into a false sense of security of,
that come from. And it's because they have been lulled into complacency.
There are fits and there are starts, there are lulls. It takes 7 minutes to sort of see whether this is...
And they'll just keep bouncing around and following and tugging on the threads of where this attack came from.
The system. Suddenly, I felt a sharp tug at my pant leg.
as if swatting a mosquito.
Experimenting with drugs and skipping classes. And so there was a tug of war in the book to show that we really were struggling.
You do one breath, one pole plant, one tug of the sled, and then you got the next step. And you
back people into his neighborhood. It became a massive tug of war between the residents, the city, and the federal government.
I think you also said something about curiosity within the book, and I'm struck by that in this moment.
An attribute that I think she has is curiosity. So as soon as the language model was launched, she's on there.
All the students for their curiosity and for their willingness to take risks. And thank you, Harriet.
I would just approach that with a curiosity, and I found the Japanese people
open. But then perhaps out of curiosity or maybe just to welcome us.
Has not been the kind of shock and awe and an installation of a puppet government. Does that suggest that a fundamental flaw?
Video installations, etc.
From an IBM Blue Gene Q installation that we have access to in Bologna, and the second one.
First installation, and we hope to have many more.
On the ground, you thought that was either an installation or a material defect. Is there any reason to reassess that now?
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.